I was never really into cooking when I was growing up until I started watching Rachael Ray with my mom. Rachael just made it more accessible and fun and not intimidating. My very first cookbook that I ever got is this one. This came out in 2006, and I actually have a printout of another Rachael Ray recipe that I tried that was from 2007. It's a burger recipe, and I think that was one of the very first things I ever tried to really cook on my own. I had forgotten about this cookbook until I visited my parents and my mom had saved it for me. I was so excited to get back in here and look at these recipes, most of which I haven't even tried. So I'm very excited to share with you this recipe that I made from this cookbook. It's called Brandy and Orange Chicken topped with stuffed shrimp, served with fruited white and wild rice. This combo of flavors, first of all, I don't even know if I've really ever cooked with brandy before, but the combo of the brandy and the orange with the chicken was so good, and then the shrimp made it feel extra special. So let's go watch. So to a skillet on medium heat with a little bit of oil, I add in some celery, some bell pepper, some green onions, and some garlic, and saute that for just a couple of minutes. And then to this, I'm going to be adding a crab mixture. This is one I already had in the fridge from a sushi night. This would be better with real crab or like lump crab meat, but I had imitation and I wanted to use it. I didn't want it to go to waste, so that's what I used here. You just saute that up a little bit with the vegetables, and then to that you add in your seasonings. We have some black pepper, some chili powder, and then some toasted bread that you've cubed up. This was a rosemary sourdough. It was really good. Mix that all together, add in some parsley, and then set that aside to cool. This is the filling for the stuffed shrimp. So speaking of the stuffed shrimp, I had a bunch of shrimp already and I wanted to try to use them. Now here I was trying to butterfly open the shrimp, and I was doing it the wrong way. I was opening the inside instead of the outside where you devein. And the recipe didn't have a picture, so I couldn't see which side I was supposed to be cutting open and stuffing. So I did these first two wrong, but I wanted to leave it in there to show you. Then I figured out this was the correct way. You butterfly it open on the back side, and then you stuff it with the crab and breadcrumb and vegetable mixture, and then you set it in your pan that is later going to be baked. But it did take me 3 tries to get that. Also, this would have been a million times easier if I had used the big shrimp like the recipe said. She asked for the really large prawns. I just used the regular size shrimp that I had, and it was kind of difficult because they were so little. But I made it work, and the flavors were there. So there's the first two, the wrong ones right there. And then the correct ones, even though they were still too small. Whatever. You bake these in the oven. I believe it was at 400 degrees for 8 minutes. And then in the meantime, we're going to sear our chicken. Sizzle, sizzle. These are boneless, skinless chicken thighs. You sear on each side for 5 minutes in a little bit of butter and oil. The oil did start to sputter just a little bit, so I wanted to show you this little handy dandy thing I have here. It just helps cover your pan, and then the oil stays inside the pan and not all over your kitchen. Here's the shrimp once they've cooked. They have that nice pink color, and they smelled and tasted, spoiler alert, really good. I also made the rice that I mentioned before. So this has raisins, mandarin oranges, I used clementines, and almonds. It was really, really good and refreshing. I had never put oranges in rice before. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's a normal thing that I just haven't tried yet. Now, after the flip and the 5 minutes, I checked the chicken, and this one was done. This one was a little bit thicker on the one side, so I decided to just give it a little bit of time searing on its side there, because that's where it was the thickest, and I wanted to make sure it was done. Then I removed that, and to the pan I added some more of my orange segments, and then I turned off the heat, which is important, and then I added in the brandy. I'll show you the brand of the brandy that I used here. It was just a little bit under a cup. So you pour that in and you deglaze the bottom of the pan with the brandy. And once the alcohol has cooked off, then you can turn your heat back on for safety reasons, obviously. But yeah, you want to get your wooden spoon in there and pick up all those bits off the bottom of the pan from the chicken that was cooking. That's where a lot of the flavor is. So now you can turn your heat back on and you add in some butter to finish. Yum. And then you also add in your orange zest. So it was very orangey. Like I said, the orange and the brandy and the butter is what took this to a different level for me. This was very, very good sauce. And now to plate. You just take your rice, the fruited rice, she called it. She actually used some wild rice, but I didn't have any, so I just used my regular rice. So you put your rice down, and then you put down your chicken thigh. And on top of that, you put your sauce, drizzle, with some of the orange segments. And then on that, you add your shrimp. See, it would have been a lot better if the shrimp were bigger, if I had actually followed the instructions. But you know what? They tasted really good. I topped it with some parsley, and it was really surprising. The flavors were bright, yet still very savory, and the rice paired super nicely with it all as well. I really loved it. It was a lot of work, but I think it paid off in the end. Thanks, Rach. How fun and beautiful was that plate? We loved it so much. It was very fancy. So a few things I would do differently. I would get some bigger pieces of chicken. I would have liked it if my thighs were a little bit bigger. Thick thighs save lives. No, but if maybe a bigger thigh or a bigger breast would have just been a little bit more elevated. Secondly, next time I do it, I want to serve it with the biggest prawns, the biggest shrimp I can find. I want like the super jumbo ones, because that way it's really more of a showstopper, right? But also I wanted to mention that if you just wanted to make the chicken portion and not put the shrimp on top, I feel like that would be perfectly great too. It doesn't need the shrimp just adds to it. It just makes it feel more fancy and elevated. But I really, really loved it. I loved the rice with it too, and I'll be making it again for sure. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.